Why do 95% of parents abandon self-care by February? Today, we're exposing that hidden trap of all or nothing thinking and how to build unshakable habits that survive sleepless nights and soccer practice. So stay tuned. Hey parents, welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. Do you want to raise your kids better and have a stronger marriage? Are you up late at night researching marriage and parenting tools and self-care tips? Do you start each day hoping for deeper connections and less chaos, but it ends with family arguments and going 12 different directions again? My name's Kendra, wife, mom, therapist, and growth enthusiast. It wasn't until I discovered how to fulfill my unmet needs that I was finally able to show up as my best self as a spouse and parent. I realized that by meeting my needs, I could more fully meet the needs of my family with more energy and less resentment. In this podcast, I teach parents skills like boundary setting, prioritizing personal needs, communication, and claiming ownership. Just like my clients, you'll be shocked by the improvement in your marriage, parenting, and personal life when you focus on fulfilling your important unmet needs. Ready to prioritize yourself so you can quit mentally throat punching people? Then grab those earbuds and head outside, and let's walk and talk. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy, where we explore ways to improve your mental health, wellness, and life fulfillment. I'm your host, Kendra Olson, and today we're talking about The Slight Edge. This is a book that I read recently, and I just felt like these concepts applied so well to both parenting and marriages and our individual lives. I wanted to bring that to the table today because it's game-changing for me, and I know it will be for you as well. So the book, The Slight Edge, starts out with this parable. And it's about a father who offers his kids two choices. And one of them is that they can either have $1 million today or a penny doubled daily. So one of the sons takes the $1 million and he burns out and loses that money pretty quickly. And the other one chose the penny, which grew to over $10 million in 30 days. So that's essentially what the book is all about. It's those small slight edge decisions that we make, those choices that are compounded and then define our lives. So let's talk about how to make those pennies work for us and our marriages, our personal lives, and in our parenting. So a few of you might know about the compound effect. This is something that I love to talk about. But what it is essentially is small actions repeated consistently that create exponential results over time. That's why I talk so much about those small incremental changes, because they're life-changing over time added up. So let me share an example of this. Maybe a parent commits to 5 minutes of deep breathing each morning, and in 6 months, they report that they're having less outbursts or better sleep. Or maybe it's simply writing out their goals every morning for 5 minutes and returning and reporting consistently each day on those goals, even if they're very tiny, small goals. Or maybe it's just simply a walk around their neighborhood after dinner on weeknights. It doesn't have to be big. There's a guest that I had on a long time ago that talked about how she just started by writing one sentence of gratitude nightly. And then just a few years later, she owned a giant gratitude journal company and was doing so well. And that started with that simple practice that over time she wanted to share with other people. Jeff Olson said, "The things you do every day don't look dramatic, but they make all the difference." So what are those tiny things that we can do that compound over time? Or maybe we're already doing them and we don't even realize it. Now let's talk about the 95% trap, why most parents burn out. Olson's premise is that 95% of people quit disciplines because results are not immediate. And we all know those people, right? Our neighbor, our best friend, our sister, whoever it is. They just end up making excuses for why they're not following through. So that might be skipping a 10-minute walk, and that feels really harmless. But after a year, your energy starts to crash and resentments build because you have been skipping those more than you realized. And pretty quickly, that goal just goes by the wayside. There was one couple I worked with a few months ago that revived their marriage by instituting a 15-minute check-in for their connection in just a small, tiny way because they got to know each other better again and started to listen on a deeper level. And they rebuilt that trust and that emotional connection. Let's talk about a few other ways we can apply the slight edge in relationships. Again, remember that small, consistent gestures are so much bigger than grand, sporadic gestures. Those small, consistent gestures add up over time and they keep growing, whereas those big, occasional ones just don't happen often enough to be putting deposits in those relationships like they need every day. So, for example, texting your spouse and telling them what you appreciate about them versus waiting for your anniversary to express gratitude or Father's Day or Mother's Day, but doing it more regularly in small and simple ways. I have another client that not too long ago instituted the 2-minute hug rule, which was really awkward for them at first, but she just really focuses on hugging her kids for a while and being really present in that hug. And just this simple thing, she reported doing time and again for over a period of time, decreased the meltdowns, she said, about 70% just by being present in that way and really helping them feel loved. Again, very simple, does not have to be big. As a matter of fact, the best ones are not big. I mentioned gratitude a minute ago, but this is one thing that I like to go back to because it really helps couples that are feeling stuck and disconnected and resentful. And the antidote for resentment is gratitude. So Lori Ann Davis said this: focus on 3 things you love about your partner daily. Train your mind to see the good. So if you believe that is true, then do something that is small, consistent, and incremental that will compound over time to major gains. What could that look like for you? Something that you know that you could stick to yourself. It doesn't have to look like your neighbor, but just something that you'll do consistently and you can tie it to something else you do. For example, you can have your gratitude journal where you write things about your spouse every night underneath your toothbrush, or it could be putting a rock on your pillow and it has painted on it G for gratitude. And then every time that you move that rock, you tell your spouse out loud some things that you appreciate about him or her. And you don't even have to let them know what that rock's for. It can just be a secret that only you remember. Either way, the fact that you're doing it is the important part. Now, another thing I want to talk about is philosophy over feelings. So this is something that he talks about in his book. So the definition really is rule your life by philosophies, not moods. And all he's really saying there is in that moment, we often don't want to do the things that are good for us. So stick to what you have decided. Now, I'm not saying there's not room for flexibility and not being so rigid that it rules your life and makes you unhappy. I'm not saying that. But predominantly, like most of the time, probably 90% of the time, if not more, we don't want to do something that's good for us. And if we go forward and do those things, we will have greater joy and fulfillment and happiness in life. So let me give you an example for that. Maybe a dad decides to run for 10 minutes a day, and just because he's exhausted, he doesn't stop doing it. He continues to because he knows that his health is a non-negotiable. It helps him show up as a better spouse, as a better parent. And so he just digs in for that 10 minutes. And because it's something small, it's not something that's going to derail him if he just runs for 10 minutes. Another thing one of my clients is doing that I just love this idea is he is reading 1 paragraph a night in a therapy book. So right now he's reading parenting books, but he also read marriage books. And he does at least a paragraph, but if he's really engaged in it, sometimes he'll read more. But he knows that as long as it's just a paragraph, that's fine. He can set aside the rest. And it's just so simple, right? It doesn't have to be 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be a chapter. It can just be a paragraph. So another thing in the book that they talk about is the Kaizen approach to parenting. All these things are very connected. So this is continuous improvement via those tiny incremental steps, just like we've been talking. So for example, meal prepping 1 healthy snack daily can lead a mom to totally change her family's habits within 1 year. I know we've done certain things like that where it just felt kind of small, but we recognize that one thing changed so many things in our lives. Like just getting your workout clothes ready the night before. That one thing is going to make you 70% more likely to get out of the house and go, or putting your alarm clock away from you when you go to the gym. There's all these tiny, small little things that if we just do that one thing, how that will lead to so much more improvement in our lives. I have another example of a client of mine that's a teacher, and she started doing 2-minute micro meditations during her lunch break and just let that be enough and really try to be present and make those 2 minutes count. And we talked about the gains from doing that added up over time. And she's loving it because it doesn't feel overwhelming. It doesn't feel like she can't do it on her worst day. But now she loves it and she's able to recognize what's going on in her body more and be more aware and be more grounded because she's practicing that regularly and changing her neural pathways. All right, let's break that down into 3 big takeaways that you can take away and start implementing. 1% better daily. So replace that all or nothing thinking with those tiny non-negotiable habits, like deep breaths before reacting, like a walk around the block when you feel activated, like ending the day with gratitude for your spouse. The second thing is celebrate that completion. This is a big thing I talk about, and I love implementing those celebrations. For example, celebrating that load of laundry that you finished that you really didn't want to do because it's a slight edge victory. Those tiny things that you do throughout the day that add up, that create more peace and calm in your home, whether it's with parenting, chores, or health, or gratitude, or deeper connection, whatever those things are, celebrating those things. And the last thing is anchor it to philosophy. So don't be ruled by feelings. Remember, don't be over controlled by your feelings and recognize that if it's just a small thing, that we can remember our philosophy and we don't have to be overruled by those feelings. So maybe write down your why and put it on a sticky note where you can see it. For example, I do this because it will remind you of why this matters and why it's important not to just skip these things when you're not feeling in the mood for it. Let's go back to that story of the penny. So that penny that compounded that growth over 30 days, he didn't even see the growth and the gains until day 28. Like it wasn't really apparent until it really started to compound. I actually was just talking about this to a client recently about how they felt like therapy wasn't even really working. Like, why are they doing this? This is a big commitment with time or money. And so we started talking about the different wins that this client had. She agreed at the end of the session that it was very much impactful and it had completely changed her life, but she just wasn't paying attention to it. She wasn't taking the time to notice those things. And then when she wrote them all out and talked about them, she recognized it would have been much slower had she done it any other way. And this was something that took her life to the next level. So remember to write that out and recognize what those wins are. What are you doing that's compounding that growth in your life that maybe you didn't take the time to notice before? Start stacking those pennies. Think about this story. How can you compound growth in your life individually as a parent and as a spouse? And I'd highly encourage you to go read The Slight Edge as well. I made a goal this year to read at least one personal growth book every month and one leisure book. And I am loving it. I've actually read probably at least 5 a month. And I'm not saying you have to go do that. It's just been so fun while I work out, while I'm going on walks, while I'm folding laundry. I'll listen to these books about growth and it inspires me and it changes my mindset. And it can do the same thing for you, or else a different small incremental change that can really change your life around. All right, my friends, that's all I have for you today. If you're feeling stuck, you can go to fulfillmenttherapy.org and schedule some coaching with me or even my team. It is so affordable and will give you that compound growth you're looking for with science-backed tools and homework and accountability that you won't get in any other way. So check that out if you'd like to take your life to the next level. And don't forget, we have new episodes every Monday and Thursday, so stay tuned for those. Until next time, my friends. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you, no matter what your house or your hair looks like. I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.